Got a minute after. I don't think that clock's right.
It's now about 7 o'clock, and we will call the Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman agenda or meeting for September 27th, 2018. Okay, start off with Elder Hayes. Like to come down and say the prayer, please.
Dear Father in heaven, we're very grateful for this wonderful day and for this time that we all get to convene together. And at this time we pray and ask for a blessing to be with the leaders of our country and the leaders here in this town of Farragut. And we pray and ask for thy guidance and direction as we all strive to work together to meet the needs of the people here. We pray and we give thanks unto thee and pray unto thee in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, Austin. Lead us in pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, next will be approval of agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Do we have any changes?
No, sir.
Second it.
Okay. And a vote, please.
Aye.
Ask all those in favor.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay, Mayor's report. School donation presentation.
How do you want to, I have things I'd like to say about each one as they're coming up to take their picture, so that I'm not slowing down the meeting as they're coming up. So you go ahead and call them, and then I'll...
All right. The first one is Farragut Primary.
All right, you started in the All right, Farragut Primary. Gina Bird is our principal. She's been our principal for 10 years now. She was recently named the PTA Principal of the Year last year. Mandy Kincaid was named a PTA Teacher of the Year last year. Farragut Primary students have the opportunity to participate in several student enrichment contests, giving them the opportunity to explore the arts and civic involvement. The Farragut Primary School PTA will host their 26th annual Fall Fest. Last year, they raised over $40,000, which was used to purchase classroom and library technology, resources, and supplies. This year's Intro to Farragut class painted the main floor hallway, which had not been painted in 26 years. And also some of the Intro to Farragut class participants will volunteer at the Fall Festival. Mrs. Bird works very hard with the teachers to establish a very big family atmosphere, which can be difficult in a school with over 1,000 students. Thank you, Mrs. Bird.
Thank you.
Our second is Farragut Intermediate. Oh, just go over the side if you want to. Just hang on over there.
Farragut Intermediate is led by Debbie Adarante, the principal. Farragut Intermediate was named a reward school for 2018, which exemplifies student success and achievement and growth. Last school year, they received a Teacherpreneur grant from Great Schools Partnership to purchase a classroom set of Google Expedition goggles to utilize virtual reality technology at FIS. FIS was a Google pioneer school for augmented reality. They continue to add technology devices as they work towards their goal of one-to-one learning environment. They also plan to purchase science materials to support the teachers with implementation of the new state science standards. One last comment, if you haven't been into the lobby of the FIS recently, it's been updated and refreshed with the wonderful talent of Marshanda Pinchok, Alderman Pinchok's daughter-in-law. Okay. Oh, yes.
Is Farragut Middle School.
Farragut Middle School is led by Weston Edmonds, and we have Kate Ford, the National Junior Honor Society Vice President, and Kathleen Horvega, the National Junior Honor Society President. The FMS seventh graders took top honors at the 2018 Southern Appalachian Science and Engineering Fair over the entire junior division. Science Bowl, Farragut Middle School won the regional competition and was the only middle school team from Tennessee to compete at nationals. Math Counts math competition team won the regional competition and competed in the state competition, placing 2 students in the top 10. The team also placed 15th in geometry and 6th in algebra nationally in the Rocket City National Math Competition. Numerous students placed and won prizes at Pellissippi Math Competition. The History B had 37 students qualify for regionals, and 5 students qualify for national competition. They're doing great things in the athletics and arts. I could go on for another 10 minutes. Great things are happening at the middle school. Thank you, ladies, for being here.
Next one is Farragut High School.
And we have Candace Greer, our curriculum principal, Holly Matthews, school librarian and winner of the Tennessee Association of School Librarians Innovative Library Award, and Dr. Whitney Parson, Science Department Chair. Some of the highlights this year: they were named a 2018 reward school. Farragut High School is ranked number 9 high school in Tennessee by U.S. News and World Report and ranked number 6 high school in Tennessee by Niche.com. Farragut High School students took 1,398 AP tests last year. We had 27 national AP scholars who are students who scored a 4 or better on 8 or more AP exams. There were more than $34 million in scholarships offered to the 2018 graduating class, and they are currently working through plans to renovate the school library. One of the more important things happening in our high school is the effort to provide a supportive culture where students feel comfortable seeking out administrators or counselors with their concerns for themselves or their friends. The support network is there for our kids. I thank you all for your efforts. I really appreciate it.
And our last one is the Farragut Education Foundation.
Where did I put that? Farragut High School Education Foundation is Mary Cook, our treasurer. The Education Foundation is celebrating its 25th year in existence. Interestingly, our own former Mayor Eddie Ford was on the founding board. In its 25 years of existence, it has been estimated that the foundation has contributed $750,000 to Farragut High School. The foundation has various funds they pull from to fund a variety of needs, from teacher conferences to technology for the classrooms. The funding from the town has gone to various academic teams, including the robotics team, science department microscopes, theater needs, and music instrument repair have been funded. One of the most exciting things happening at Farragut is a tutoring program, which is overseen by 2 teachers. In last year's fall semester, 79 students received tutoring and 88 students volunteered their time to assist in tutoring. In the spring semester, 114 students received tutoring services and 87 students volunteered their time to assist in tutoring. The Farragut High School Education Foundation is vitally important to maintaining the high academic standards at Farragut High School. Thank you all.
Some of them want to, yeah, come on, we're all going to be really close. Somebody want to come on up here, a couple of you, and we'll stagger, yeah. Yeah, there you go. You'll do it. All right, ready?
Painted in 26 years. That's ridiculous. Oh, I'm sure. Before you touch it.
All right, thank you,
Isn't that weird?
Thank you. I'll work on that. You guys take care. I'm glad you came out on this rainy night. I'm going to say one more thing. I wanted to say one more thing about our schools. We hear from realtors that are dealing with people that are coming in from other states, and I'm hearing from them People are just looking to be in Farragut School Zone. That's all they want. They want a house in Farragut School Zone. We have great schools. They're doing great things for our community, and they keep our community relevant and a place that people want to live. So we've got some great things going on. I'm so proud that we have these schools. Thank you, guys.
Okay. We have anybody signed up for Citizens Forum?
No, sir.
None? Okay, let's move on. Okay, I hear a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, first item of business. Approval of event application involving the use of town's public right-of-way and pedestrian facilities for the Forget-Me-Not 5K for Alzheimer's, benefiting the Pat Summit Foundation.
Yes, sir. Mark is at a conference tonight, so I will do his presentation. It's included in your packets as a request for approval for an event application for the Forget Me Not 5K for Alzheimer's, benefiting the Pat Summitt Foundation. This event has been held for the past 8 years, and this is the first time the event is proposed in the town of Farragut. Proceeds from the event will benefit the Pat Summitt Clinic at the University of Tennessee Medical Center. This event is scheduled for the morning of April 20th, 2019, and anticipated to have 750 to 1,000 participants. The event is being presented to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen because a partial lane closure of one lane along Parkside Drive is being requested, along with the use of a portion of Campbell Lakes Drive and the Parkside Drive Greenway. The start and finish will be at the Belk Men's Store off Parkside Drive. The route will have participants turning right out of the parking lot of the Men's Belk, running along one lane of Parkside Drive, roughly 1 mile, west at North Campbell Station Road. From there, participants will use the sidewalk and head north on North Campbell Station Road, turn right on Campbell Lakes Drive using a portion of the street, going around the Wild Wing Restaurant Lake, and then proceed to access the Parkside Greenway that abuts the interstate. Participants will proceed east along the Greenway and then take a side trail from the Greenway back to the Belk parking lot to finish the course. Portal restrooms and one water station will be provided, and the volunteers will be responsible for defining the race route and cleaning up after the event. The Knox County Sheriff's Department will provide traffic control, and a nurse will be present for any medical issues. The recommendation is from the staff is approval of the event subject to proper notification to any affected entities, the provision of adequate traffic control, and a deposit of $500 being paid to the town of Farragut, which will be refunded if no damage, like paint markings in the course, occurs to the public infrastructure. As noted above, the applicant is proposing to use volunteers to mark the course. The motion is to approve an event application on April 20th, 2019, involving the use of the town's public rights-of-ways and pedestrian facilities for the Forget Me Not 5K for Alzheimer's, benefiting the Pat Summitt Clinic.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Representative here tonight from the race.
Okay, great. Would you please state your name and address, please?
Angela Wampler, and I live in Lenore City on 1785 Old Midway Road.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the race and the fact that this is the first time you've had it, going to have it in Farragut.
Right. We would love to have it in Farragut. We started in Lenore City the first few years. This would be our 9th year. Previous years were at the University of Tennessee. We'd like to kind of bring it in between. We started this race because my daughter had a dream. My mother had Alzheimer's, lived 17 years with Alzheimer's, and passed away last year. And while she was going through the illness, my daughter woke up and said one morning, "Mom, I looked at your shirt, and you were wearing the shirt that said it was the Forget Me Not 5K for Alzheimer's." Then we partnered with Pat Summitt and the Pat Summitt Foundation. She came to the races that we had there. We usually have the cheerleaders, and Smokey and Holly Warlick will bring the players. It's just a fun family event. There's some serious runners, and then lots of families that just get together to have a good time and celebrate life and kind of rally around each other in tough times. And we feel like the Greenway and Farragut area, we can tap into some good sponsors so that we can give a lot of money to the Foundation for Research.
It's a great cause, and we're very, very pleased and happy that you're going to have the event here
Yes,
this
we'd
coming
love
year.
that.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions.
I don't either.
None. No. Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you next
Thanks.
time.
For bringing
All
it
right.
to us.
Okay, next, approval of professional design services for the Anchor Park ADA renovations and improvements.
Earlier this year, the town of Farragut applied for a local Parks and Recreation Fund grant in the amount of $325,000 for the purpose of reconstructing and enlarging the restroom, reconstructing the ADA parking and entrance plaza area, and then constructing ADA access to the rectangular and diamond fields, both for spectators and participants, all of which are required by the ADA. The town was recently notified that we were awarded this grant for the construction phase of the project. We will need to match that with another $325,000. Lowe's Design was selected by the staff from the firms that submitted a response to the RFQ for park projects due to their extensive background in park planning and design. We've really wanted to work with Lowe's for a long time. They were based out of Nashville, and most of our projects just weren't large enough for them to be able to do it. They've recently opened a branch in Knoxville, and now we're getting that chance. We hope to be able to work with them. While the state is working with the town and other state departments on getting the environmental clearances and getting the grant contract between the state and the town through their system, we can be working on the design and construction documents. The contract with Lowe's is for $79,500 plus up to $5,500 for expenses, which could be for additional meetings, construction administration, and review per the attached schedule to the contract. This design process will include data collection, which includes a survey, concept plan, design development, construction drawings, project schedule, opinion of cost, and contract bid oversight. While the details of the site will be finalized during the process, and what things we'll really look at, Lowe's is committed to following the basic model that we have with our new restroom at MBLP, so that we can mimic and brand our parks in such a way. I think this has been that was a really popular upgrade to our parks, and we've gotten lots of great positive comments on that. This restroom will not, however, have changing rooms because of the space limitations and the lack of need for that at this location. The tentative deadline for the final drawings is February 28th. That is subject to change according to surveys, utilities, and a lot of other things that tend to come along during a project like this. You have any questions for me?
I'll move to approve the attached contract with Lowe's Design for professional design services for ADA renovations and improvements at Anchor Park in the amount of $79,500, plus up to $5,500 for additional services and expenses for the fee schedule.
Second.
I do have a question. We're saying that the drawings will be complete by February 28th. When is this project due? I mean, what are we looking at as far as the actual work? How long is this going to take?
I don't know. The actual construction on this is probably a 6 to 8 month construction, depending on the time of the year that's bid. The big question is, when will the state get our grant contract to us? And that's hard to predict. I'm hopeful that it'll be in late winter or early spring, but that's really up to the state of Tennessee. We cannot do anything except for the design and all the contract stuff. We can't bid it out. We can't start. We can't do anything until we get that contract in hand. And it's totally in the state's hands.
I guess I'm not concerned, I got a question in my mind about the ADA requirements that we have and the amount of money we've got to spend over the next 30 years, and we're looking to spend about $250,000 a year. Will this hit in the current fiscal year's budget, or is this going to be
Yes,
split
because
between 2 years, or how's that going to work?
Well, it'll most assuredly span a fiscal year or 2 fiscal years.
fiscal years.
Yeah. But yes, the design is part of the whole process of making these updates to the park. So this really gets us kicked off in a big way.
Good.
Okay, conceivably, could that mean that we've covered our expenses for the next 2 years by having 325 starting in this fiscal year and then?
It could be. I think the main thing that you have to show the state of Tennessee is that you're making progress on the goals and the things that are in your ADA transition plan.
Okay.
And so obviously this is a huge one that you're getting taken care of right away. There's still little things that we could be doing, throughout the year as well. So it really just depends on what the priorities are for next year and looking ahead. But certainly with this grant, that's helped us get a lot further ahead on knocking out some of these major projects. But there's still plenty to do.
Yeah.
Over the next several years.
My thought is it gives us a lot more time to prioritize how we'd like to handle, because we've got quite a few projects that we kind of got to figure out, the big major ones that we need to figure out how
I think
to
you'd have
do.
to look at any major projects over the next couple of years.
Okay.
But I think the smaller things that we can take care of, we certainly would want to try to do those.
Okay. So just for clarity, this grant is just for construction phase, not for design phase. The
Right,
Design
so-
phase is on us.
Right. So the way that it works, we could actually have included some of the cost of the design. It's not necessarily 50/50. It's actually based on a percentage
Okay.
of your estimated construction. But if you do that, that means you can't start design or anything. Well, we've learned over the years that it's a 2-year cycle. We have to be done, complete with the project, all the reimbursements in, if we want to apply for the next cycle. And almost 100%, if you keep design in your grant monies, you probably cannot possibly, unless it's a really small project, can't get done in 2 years. So we take a big step forward and we will be ready to go as soon as we get that contract. And again, hard to know. The environmentals have to be done. David and I are going to go through a meeting next week. So we'll find out what the particulars on that are. They do change things every 2 years. So, I don't know yet exactly. So.
I also wanted to say, I know that we apply for a lot of grants, and we hear that, and people think, oh, they got another grant. It's a big deal that we have this grant. It's a really big deal. Sue works very hard to find out what's out there and what we can bring into our town, and this is a big deal. So I really appreciate your efforts, Sue.
Thank you. Thank you.
That should be celebrated. I do have a question about, we have tasks 1 through 7, and then there's 8 and 9, which are additional, and I probably should have called you early today to make sure we knew what we're talking about. Phase 2, how many phases do we envision having for Anchor Park? Do we
This is
know?
just one phase.
Yeah.
We had originally looked at some other elements in the park. Anchor Park is an interesting park because we only own a third of it, basically. It is a TVA easement. We do not have a permanent easement with them, so it limits what we can do as far as grant funds and, a lot of those things we would need to look at as we get to trying to make improvements on TVA land and how we're going to handle that. So, but this is a great start, so.
So when will we make a decision if we want to do task 8 and 9?
Not in this
Not
process, no.
Okay, okay.
No, that was when we were talking earlier, but it is not included in this.
Okay,
so.
okay.
Those all, Vice Mayor, those all seem to be CIP type projects that certainly we could look at in the future,
Okay.
in future years, if you want to during the next CIP cycle.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else, but I think Mr. Hill wanted to.
Oh, sure.
You wish to speak, Mr. Hill? I do. Okay, thank you.
I want to say that I don't believe any of you all are handicapped. in the legal sense of the word. I am. I don't look like I'm handicapped, but my legs don't work as they ought to. My heart definitely doesn't work as it ought to. I'm terrified as a handicapped person of going downstairs or upstairs without proper handrails. Absolutely terrified. Because one fall for a handicapped person that's my age would be the end of their useful life. So I urge you to look at what we're doing on this handicap program. It's good that we have it. It's overdue. I look at handicap facilities wherever I go, and just to see if they comply with ADA. I'd say have to say now that the most non-compliant one I know of is University of Tennessee. But on the other hand, we're just getting into this, and we have a number of handicapped people in Farragut. Two of those you see fairly often, John Dales and me. And I really hope that you listen to the handicapped people in terms of what bothers them and what they need to just function in life in a normal way. It's really disturbing, and it's mentally upsetting to not be able to do things when you're handicapped that you could do maybe without even thinking about it 10 years before. But ADA allows that to be at least alleviated and mitigated. But if you don't have ADA in place, then you're in a dangerous situation. And priorities on what we're about to do by phases. In my opinion, 30 years is far too long. I'd like to see it done in about 5. And I applaud Ms. Boblin about grants. There are grants for this, I'm sure, and we really ought to research the whiz out of that to get as much money as we can. All of those grants will be matching, but just getting the base number will help us a lot. So that's my message about handicap. So I won't talk about that later.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. You and Mr. Nails both were here whenever we had the workshop, and we took down all the information in, and I think we're headed that direction. Thank you again.
I have no further questions.
I have none.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next, Mr. Hill, you might come on back down. Next will be appointments by the Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman to fill a vacant South Ward Alderman position.
Mayor, I'll go through the procedures tonight a little bit so everybody's aware of how this is going to work. But on August 2nd of this year, we had our municipal election, and at that time we had a mayoral election. And at the time, we had Alderman Williams from the South Ward, who was running for mayor and wound up winning and being sworn in after that. And so that left a vacancy in the South Ward Alderman position. That vacancy, that position is open until, term expires in August of 2020. So this is for a 2-year term. The board at that time accepted resumes and applications from the public. We received 5 applications that were qualified applicants for the position. I believe all those individuals are here tonight. The Town of Farragut Charter states that by affirmative vote of a majority of the remaining members on the board, that the board shall fill a vacancy in the office of alderman for the unexpired term. It goes on to say that all such elections by the board shall be made by voice vote on the calling of the roll, and in the event of a tie, the presiding officer, who is the mayor, shall vote a second time to break the tie. So for tonight, once deliberations on the appointment of the open alderman position is complete, the mayor will open the floor to nominations. The board can make as many nominations as you individually would like to. And once those nominations are complete, then the first name that comes up for nomination will be the first one that the board votes on. And that will be done by voice vote. and roll call vote. This process will continue until we find a majority vote for the nominee. And that person will then be appointed or sworn in at the next Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting in October. So with that, I can answer any questions, but I know all the applicants all the qualified applicants are here. And if we'd like to start with Mr. Hill or however the board would like to do it.
Before we start with the statements, I've got a little bug in my bonnet about I keep hearing repeatedly that we need to amend our charter or amend our charter, which we cannot do because our charter is a general law charter. It is in state law. So I'm going to read a few things. General law charters are based in state law and have been the only type of charter available to new cities since 1953. When the founders of the town of Farragut were contemplating incorporating this area, they had to choose between one of the 3 general law charters, which are spelled out in Title VI of the Tennessee Code. Title VI refers to the cities and towns. Since general law charters apply to all cities that have adopted that charter, amending a general law charter can be a difficult process. If the General Assembly makes a change in a general law charter, it applies to all the cities with that charter. Therefore, if we want to make a change, we have to go out to all the cities that have a general law mayor aldermanic charter and ask them, hey, we'd like to make this change. Are you on board or at least agnostic? Then we have to get our state representatives to go to carry a bill, and they have to present it, get it passed through and signed by the governor, and that's how we get a change in our charter. Is that correct, Mr. Hale? What I've just said is pretty correct?
I think that's
Pretty accurate.
accurate.
So our general law charter, the mayor aldermanic charter is covered in chapters 1 through 4 of Title VI, which is cities and towns. Further down in Title VI of cities and towns is the municipal government generally is chapter 53, which is municipal elections, section 109, which establishes the minimum age of city and municipal legislators. There's no reason for us to go to amend our charter because the minimum age specifications are already in state code. I'm not interested in changing passing an ordinance to change the age from 18 to, we can go from 18 to 21 is what the state code allows us to do. Quite frankly, if an 18-year-old, they're old enough to vote, they should be old enough to run for election, and the citizens of the town of Farragut can decide whether they're mature enough to represent them or not. So I just needed to say that because it was driving me a little crazy. So I appreciate everyone's patience. Thank you.
Do I take part of my 5 minutes to consider what Louise said?
You're welcome to.
Well, I know I got 5 minutes to do that. I think that who's got the time? I think that changing the charter would be whether or not it is legislatively prevented right now. It would be an interesting thing for the town to look at the charter after 30 years and see if there are changes that need to be made. We have in this county 9 representatives, I believe, and 2 senators who are willing to work in our behalf to get this. It wouldn't be the first time that a charter has been changed. The way we got the hotel motel tax in Knox County, we had a general act with special application passed just to include Knoxville and Knox County. I'm not sure if you can do that with smaller towns and not, but I expect you'd find a lot of other towns who have some changes they would like to make, and it would be something that the legislature would have to consider. But we have a considerable set of muscle in the legislature, and if we want to do this, then we need to talk to them about how to do it and what we need to do to get ready for it. That's my time on that.
Mr. Hill.
All right. My name is Robert M. Hill. I live at 11504 Mountain View Road. I own about 5 acres up there, and they've owned it since 1962, and I've lived on it since 1965. And in connection with that house, my uncle down in Crenshaw County, Alabama, has 600 acres, and he calls it his place. And I've adopted that term for my house because that's my place. That's where I want to live and want to die. And it was not Farragut when I moved here, but it is now. I did not vote for Farragut when I was on county commission because I didn't think the finances could be handled. I'm happy to say that I was wrong about that. We're doing just fine with that. It's going to take some effort in the future to do that, but we're a great town, and I'm proud to live here, and I'm proud to be able to do what I'm going to do tonight in terms of asking to be appointed for the unexpired part of Mayor Williams' term. I'll say right now that I'm not a candidate for re-election. I'm willing to serve in this term and would be delighted to do so. I have lots of experience, and you all know this, the audience might not. I have lots of experience in government, but I had a full-time job at Oak Ridge and prior to that with the L&N Railroad working as an engineer. I did that job as you all are doing here now in your spare time or your retired time. If you're working, Mr. Meyer is working, so he has to do it in his after hours time. But this has given me a really broad feeling about what government is and how it works and what needs to be done to make it work better. And it's 10 years on the county commission and 27 years on the planning commission here. You found in my resume that various and sundry special jobs that I did. And that's 37 years plus experience, which to me would be, if I were hiring somebody, would be an important factor. I'm 90 years old. I'm still in possession of most of my marbles, I think. I think fairly well, but I cannot do the things that I did when I was 80. For instance, I cannot do 80 push-ups because I was 80 years old, but I did then. But can't do it now. But I can still think, and I still like to work on almost every phase of Farragut's life. I'm a member now of the Stormwater Advisory Committee. I love stormwater. I'm a member of the state stormwater, the East Tennessee branch of the Tennessee Stormwater Advisory Committee for the state. I work this is my second pass at working in stormwater with our unit, our government. I also work in I'm a member of the Sierra Club. I'm the past group chair for the Sierra Club. We have about 1,500 members in 18 counties around. And I work on stormwater and environmental issues for the Sierra Club also. I still have my engineer's license, $400 a year privilege fee, $72 a year license fee, and it's newly revised or renewed at the end of July. I use that because when I speak often before government units like this and like the county commission, and while I don't do design work, I do understand engineering, and I am a professional engineer, and that sort of puts me on a plane with our town attorney as a lawyer. They have their pecking order, and we have ours. But I like everything like to work on everything that the town does. And you see me often here. I'm particularly interested in roads. I'm particularly interested in planning. I'm particularly interested in making a town center work. I'm particularly interested in looking at our ordinances to see if we can somehow incentivize the town center's initiation and final solution. It's at a time beyond my lifespan and beyond the lifespan of most of you all, but in planning, you don't think about tomorrow or next week. It's 15 to 20 years out. That's what you're looking at. So I'm really interested in getting that done. I'm also interested in budgeting. I found that very helpful when I was in the on county commission. And we are accumulating a number of budget items that have tails to them. And you just mentioned one for the ADA. I do not know and don't have the detail that I really ought to have if I were a Board of Mayor and Alderman member on how we're planning our financial activities, say 5 years from now, especially with those jobs that we have as tails. Tails are, we have a new community center, we've got an old house, we've got a park that we are renovating at great expense. We've got 19 miles of walking trails that this lady just talked about, how important that was to them. It's important to us. I run into people from this county and from outside the county and from other towns and travelers who come here and stay a night and they walk on our walking trails because they're nice. But there are many other things that I like. I've already made contact with Mr. Meyer, and I expect no matter how this turns out, you're going to be seeing as much of me as you saw before. I just won't, if I'm not elected, then I just won't be a member of the Board of Mayor and Alderman. But that doesn't mean I'm going to quit thinking about what Farragut needs and what it does and what it can do to make itself greater. So if you have any questions and I have any time left, I'll try to answer them. There being none, thank you very much for your time and the privilege of doing this.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Hill.
you.
I need this.
Next speaker is Joanna Richards.
I am Joanna Richards. A few days after the recent election, I learned that there would be a vacancy within the Board of Aldermen. I started thinking about what I might bring to the position and to the town of Farragut. I believe I would bring the perspective of another female, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a compassionate registered nurse. I have a BS in nursing from the University of South Carolina. My husband, Jerry, and I were married shortly after he came back from Vietnam, having been an Army helicopter pilot. We had grown up in the same town of North Augusta, South Carolina. He left the military a few years later and became an agent with the FBI and started his 29-year career until his retirement. During that time, the FBI transferred us to, or we lived in 5 different states across this great country that we live in, and our last place, which we thought might be our home at one time, was in Los Angeles, California. Our first child, a boy, was born in Thousand Oaks, California. Shortly after that, we were transferred by the FBI to Tennessee, and we bought our home in deep West Knox County, which would, in 2 years, become the town of Farragut. When we arrived here, there wasn't much here. There was a caution light at the corner of Kingston Pike and Concord Road. The intermediate and primary schools, as such, were over in the old high school building. There was a football field behind it, and we had a fairly new, not that new, but fairly new high school. There was a white store, a Kmart, couple of small gas stations. I think there was a Texaco or Lone Star, something like that down the road, and a pharmacy and I believe a physician's office. Most of the area was farmland. I stayed at home for a few years because we subsequently had 2 daughters. All of our children, all 3 of them, attended all the Farragut schools until they graduated. I spent many hours volunteering, helping with school activities, and also as a school nurse in all 4 of the schools until the time they graduated. They all attended the University of Tennessee and graduated. One of our daughters returned to Farragut and was a kindergarten teacher for 9 years at Farragut Primary, and her last principal was the one that just spoke a few minutes ago. Our children live close by. One of them is in the town of Farragut. She has 2 children that attend Farragut schools. A second is in West Knox County, and the third lives in Loudoun County. I have witnessed firsthand as our town has grown from farmland to a thriving community and has all levels of housing, businesses, restaurants, shopping, hotels, leisure, and recreation areas. I feel that having lived here for 40 years plus, I have seen and experienced all of the changes and want to continue to see our town thrive. We need to continue to induce new families and new businesses to establish themselves in Farragut, but at the same time, we need to maintain our high standards for signage, roadways, parks, walking and biking trails with the positive neighborhood and town ordinances. Different positions I have held throughout my nursing career have enabled me to recruit, manage, and retain many employees. I have also been able to present and interact with applicants, clients, managers, physicians, CEOs, and local and state officials. One thing many years of living in this area have taught me is to listen carefully, analyze, and educate, and then to help individuals make knowledgeable decisions. Because of these reasons, I would like to be selected as the town alderman. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. No questions from me?
I have none.
Next applicant is Scott Russ.
Good evening. My name is Scott Russ. I live in Turkey Creek Woods, which I think is an enclave within Kingsgate. Haven't quite figured all that out yet. First of all, I'd like to recognize the administrative staff, Ms. Myers, Mr. Smoke, and Ms. Hatmaker, which I'm sure she's probably lurking around here somewhere, for organizing the appointment application and interview process. I appreciate that, and thank you very much. Also, I'd like to commend each of the other 5 persons that submitted their letters of interest and have interviewed for this position. I think that really represents a selflessness, a willingness to commit your time and energy towards serving. It demonstrates your desire to make this community the best place that it can be. And I thank you for that, and I'm honored to call you my neighbor. We touched on a lot of things during the interview process, so I'm not going to go real deep dive into my resume and my qualifications, but there was one question that each of you aldermen had asked during that process, and that was you stressed that the amount of time needed and community engagement necessary to be successful in this position would be more than one could really imagine. But one of the questions that had stuck out to me was that if you were appointed to serve the remainder of the unexpired alderman term, would you run in the next municipal election in 2020? And I think I was very quick to respond to that question without hesitation, and it was an absolutely yes. So I went home after those interviews, and I really thought on that question just stood out to me, and I thought, you know, I'm not really sure that I answered that properly, so I'd like to answer that question again, if I may. I think that question will be answered in 2 years, and that would be up to the people that I would have represented up to that point. I would want to ask them, have I successfully represented their voice thus far, and have I met their expectations as an alderman? So with that, I would leave that to the Farragut community as a whole to decide if they would like to nominate me to continue working on their behalf. So I think that's really how I truly feel about that. So hopefully my background, personality, civic mindedness, and desire to positively impact this wonderful community will compel you to give further consideration of my application for the appointment of the vacant spot on the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for Farragut. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Russ.
Thank you. Are there any questions that I may ask?
I have none.
None.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant is Drew Burnett.
It's never a good sign when somebody gets up with a 3-ring binder, but it's what I had. So good evening. My name's Drew Burnett, and first off wanted to thank the mayor, the alderman, Mr. Hale, town administrator, and town staff for the opportunity to stand in front of you tonight. I was born 6 months after Farragut was incorporated. I'm not sure if that makes me old or young, but
Young and makes us old.
and I've lived all my life in Farragut. I'm a product of the Farragut school system in a good way. From primary through high school, I attended Farragut. During my time in Farragut schools and from playing 3 sports at Farragut High School, I quickly realized that Farragut is special and began to take pride in this area. I grew up learning to ride my bike and using the fields at Anchor Park, found out what a blue light special was at our town Kmart. Went to Super Saturdays at Putt Putt with my best friend and held many celebrations in the Good Times room at Mr. Gaddy's. It's impossible to tell my life story without Farragut being woven throughout. I did not realize until recently how little I knew about the story of Farragut's incorporation. Growing up, I was told of a group of people who had become very frustrated with Knoxville's lack of care for West Knoxville and wanted to separate and govern themselves. I had no idea the hard work and dedication it took to get this town started. Someone recently lent me a book entitled Full Speed Ahead. It gives a type of person-by-person account of the idea, preparation, and execution of the incorporation of the town of Farragut. Needless to say, I was blown away by the boldness of the newly found community leaders, the drive to do something different, something that everyone else said was impossible, and the resourcefulness to overcome all obstacles in their way. These leaders did not back down from Goliath. They banded together with a common goal and did anything necessary to secure the victory of the formation of Farragut. I believe the late Mayor Ralph McGill and his wife Mary Ann said it best in this book. The story of the incorporation of Farragut is a grand moment in history, a decidedly American moment. Farragut is a close-knit, well-connected community that is focused on families. I will work diligently to keep Farragut a wonderful place to raise a family by ensuring our developments fit our core strengths and values, continuing to improve and expand our beautiful parks, and promoting the expansion of our sidewalks and greenways. Offering strategic leadership backed by the voice of younger families in the community, I will work to make sure their voices are heard while standing up for the issues that we're facing now and into the future. I'm also very excited to help out with the input and leadership regarding the addition of a Farragut Town Center. This project has been an important point in our community over the past few years, and I believe we have the opportunity to lay the groundwork to bring it to fruition in the near future. Serving as the South Ward Alderman will allow me to combine my love for the town with the chance to serve in it and continue to see it grow. From my interviews with the mayor and the alderman, I heard a few keys to success for this position. One was being a good listener. One was being fair and consistent. One, be willing to compromise. And then the last was be willing to take a stand when you feel convicted. These are all principles that have been integral to my success in leading my work team of selling professionals. People want their opinions to be heard, they want to be cared for, and they want to feel like they belong. I will represent the people in the South Ward of Farragut with passion and honesty if given the opportunity. In summary, my life experience in the town of Farragut, my passion for seeing this community, and my strong leadership background make me a good candidate for the open alderman seat. I look forward to serving the Farragut community as an alderman or as a resident. And before I close, not pictured with me today are my beautiful wife of 15 years and my 5 kids. We have a crazy fun life, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our final applicant is Tony Carasso.
Thank you. My name is Tony Carasso. I live in Wentworth subdivision at 204 Gwynhurst. First of all, I'd like to thank you. It's an honor to even be considered for an alderman position here in Farragut. My journey began in 2003 when I moved here, but when I really got engaged with the town of Farragut is when I went through the intro to Farragut program. That was a real eye-opener for me. Before that program, I really didn't understand how the city operated, didn't know much about the history at all. Got on the other side of that program and knew a lot about how the town was run and learned a little bit about our history. At the graduation class, Ralph McGill was there, and he gave us 2 charges. One was to read the book, Full Speed Ahead, which I did twice. A great read. If you haven't, I strongly recommend it. And second, he engaged all of us to do something about getting involved with one of the committees in the town of Farragut. And that's what I did. I stepped back, took a few weeks, looked at the committees, and got involved with the Farragut Knox County Education Relations Committee. Absolutely loved it. Stayed engaged for 4 years, termed it out. Would still be on it if I wasn't termed out. When that was over, I stepped back and took a look around to see what else I might do or get engaged in. That's about the time Ron won the mayoral election. I heard about the Ward 2 seat being available and thought that might just be a next good natural step for me to serve Farragut a little bit more. And that's what I'd like to be considered for, is that Ward 2 position. Any questions?
None.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, here comes the hard part, because I would love if we had a discussion about what our thoughts are before we start doing nominations.
That's what we're here for.
This is not easy, because we have great people who care. Mr. Hill has served our community for years, but he has indicated that, and I'm just going to go over what I'm thinking, that he's not a candidate for re-election. I think these 2 years on someone else's term are an incredible gift. I feel like I'm just hitting my stride right now. I feel like I did a lot of stuff internal for the first 2 years, but I was making those connections and establishing those relationships. So these 2 years are an incredible gift for someone to serve our community. When I talked to the applicants, 3 came to the top to me, and that was Tony, Drew, and Scott. I thought, Joanna, you have a passion for a lot of caring things, and you had mentioned in our discussion about the seniors, taking care of seniors. And I know that we are working with our planner is going to start doing neighborhood inspections, making sure the houses are maintained. And I think we have a need for a senior type liaison committee for those people that can't maintain their homes and need extra assistance. I think you would be a perfect advocate for a position like that. But Scott, Drew, and Tony rose to the top for me for different reasons. Scott is very much a numbers cruncher. He's going to be looking for efficiencies. Drew is detail-oriented, obviously knows Farragut very well, has a passion for it, interest in the growth of our town, but he's young and he's got young children, so he brings a perspective that we don't have. on the board. And Tony, of course, has served on the Education Relations Committee. He has a background in commercial lending, and that's what he does. So he understands, and it's small, so he does smaller building structures and build-outs, understands that aspect of it. And I think that's one of the things that we need to understand as we're trying to attract new businesses to town, is understanding what are our architectural design guidelines, how are they impacting building. There's certain, the sign ordinance is coming up for review, and we need a perspective about how we want to go forward with that. Do we want to loosen the grips on that? What does that look like? How do we be business friendly but still maintain the high quality standards of our community? So those three came to the top for me, and I'm not sure where you guys are.
Scott?
So I came here tonight confused because each one of the candidates bring a very special story to the application process. I'm amazed in how Farragut has produced such outstanding candidates and families such as your own. And so I very much appreciate the opportunity to get to know you all, to get to hear your story, to hear about how Farragut has blessed your family as much as it has blessed mine. And it's a real privilege. But for me, I have a different perspective than Vice Mayor Alderman. The question I have, and I think most of the candidates that met with me, I asked very specific questions of all of you. For me, what the biggest issue is that which candidate can best represent the South Ward for the next 2 years. For me, it's not relevant to whether you choose to run for another term or not. I don't see that being a part of the job description. It's more of what skill set and what abilities do you have to be able to address the issues that we have currently in front of us. And although the majority of the candidates have fantastic history, there's not a lot of experience that I noticed. But there was one candidate for me that came to the top, and that was Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill has years of experience working with committees, as he shared. He has the understanding of the detail that is necessary to operate in this position. Being appointed, you'll have to step up pretty quickly. And so my thoughts and leanings are toward Mr. Hill at this time.
Ron?
Again, I want to thank all the candidates for stepping forward. I think we have an excellent group here, and it's been very difficult during the interview process and even tonight listening to everybody, and the questions that I asked and the answers I received were very good from everybody. And you all have good qualities and strengths and talents that we can use, and again, it's going to be very difficult to choose one of you. I have my, I guess, two candidates that I've been leaning towards, and that's Mr. Burnett and Mr. Russ. From the questions that I ask and from what I've heard and know of both of you, you're what I think the South Ward is looking for. Again, not to take anything away from the other candidates, because you all have your strengths as well, but it's going to be very difficult because I'd like to have all of you on the committee or on the board. But
can I second that?
I'm done.
Done? Well, all five are great. Mr. Hill's definitely got the experience. Ms. Richards brings a different perspective to the choices here. Tony has done a lot already in our town, and he does work with the small businesses, and going forward that is really important. Mr. Burnett's in sales, and sales is always dear to my heart because that's what it takes nowadays to sell our town and to get out there. And some of the things that we have going forward is it will include a lot of sales, and it will be up to some of us to get out there and do it. Myself and Ron, Louise, and Scott all will be a salesman at some point in time. And it's just, this is a tough pick. I think Scott would be an excellent choice on our Parks and Recreation Committee, and we have an open position there, by the way. And what Alderman Powell was talking about with a person that would fit in with the older folks, I think that would be a great addition to our group. So at this point, I guess what I will do is I'll open the nominations up, or I will nominate Drew Burnett.
We're taking nominations, so if you're going to nominate now.
I would like to nominate Scott Russ.
I don't need to nominate anyone.
No nomination from Alderman Pavlin and, okay, Alderman Pinchuk?
No.
None?
That's it, we've got two
So you've
nominations.
Got two nominations? Okay, I guess at this point we'll need to vote on the first one.
So you're, just so everybody's clear, your two nominations, one is for Drew Burnett, one is for Scott Russ.
Yes.
So your first nomination will be the one you're voting for right now, which is Drew Burnett.
Drew Burnett.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Alderman Pavlin.
Yes, for Drew.
Mayor Williams.
Yes, for Drew.
Alderman Meyer.
No.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Yes.
Okay, looks like we have a consensus, so vote carries.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, I think.
Okay, next we have the town administrator's report.
Mayor, I just last few days I was at the International City Managers Association conference. I get to go to this once a year. I appreciate the board allowing me to go and get some training and hearing from my colleagues all over the world, really, on issues they're dealing with, and brought back some really great information and things we're going to try to start incorporating here. So anyway, stay tuned for staff on things that I always come back with ideas, and they always kind of like it, but they mostly don't. So we'll see how things go. Intro to Farragut also is next week, October the 3rd, and we have public safety as our next subject. I know we're going to have both the Rural Metro and the Knox County Sheriff's Office here to enlighten our class on everything that they do. So that'll be Wednesday night at 6 o'clock here at Town Hall. And that's all I have to report.
Can I'm sorry, add something to you that I should have added at the beginning. This week was Innovate 6.5. It's a program kind of put on by the City of Knoxville and a whole host of research entities, the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center, and so on and so forth. I attended the Maker City Summit on Sunday, which was fascinating. Knoxville is trying to become a maker city. Well, they are a maker city. A really good opportunity for us to kind of key in on some small businesses and that small business potential. Tuesday was Startup Day. 6 individual companies were pitching to be awarded startup, I guess, seed money for their company. The one that won was, this will interest you, has to do with a computer program that they've set up so that you can rent, you can lease and, reserve lease your storage unit online. The storage company would have it, and then you go in there and you can do everything online. You don't have to show up there to get everything done. He won $5,000 for that. So storage units are an incredible, it's a big business in the United States. And the last thing that was today was a tour of the UT Research Foundation Business Incubator, which was I got some really good ideas from that as well. So there's a lot going on out there, is all I'm trying to say, and we kind of need to key in on see what we can do with what's going on. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, town attorney's report.
I don't have a report, but I would like to make a comment about a recent experience I've had. Most of you know that I have a private practice. I don't just represent the town, and in my work, I've working for this North Shore Corridor Association in opposing the development off of Toolsbend Road. I've always had a great admiration for the town's planning staff and how they approach their work and how even-handed and serious they are about it, and how much integrity there is, I think, in the way the town handles its planning function. I've had a renewed excitement about the town's efforts in that regard, having been in front of the MPC recently. I found the experience not nearly as enlightened or even-handed or fair, nothing like we have here, and I just wanted to say that. Sometimes I think we don't appreciate some of the excellent work that the planning staff and the planning commission and the whole town staff does for everybody. So thank you for that. That's all I have.
Thank you.
No other business. We are adjourned.